Hello everyone, I'm Alan, also known as McLaren 2009, and today I'm playing Train Sim World 3. But I'm playing one of the older routes. I'm playing the Sandpatch grade. So I believe, in Cumberland, Pennsylvania. Could be wrong about that, though. In any regard, I'm currently doing a relatively simple switching job just inside of the yard. So I need to get everything set up. Release, supply, lead. Let's go back here. Controlling, coupled and long head. Numbers on. Engine running. Okay. Let's turn that on just to be safe. Alright, let's run back, get the other one. Okay. Handles off, cutouts off, trail, engine on, control off. Okay. Alright. So, that should be everything set up for that. Not sure why I don't have a conductor at the moment, but it happens. Okay, put in the reverser. Let's go forward. Throttle up. Actually, that was a mistake. I probably should have made sure this was right first. Okay, so basically all of the things that I was just doing, you have to make sure everything's set up properly, otherwise it isn't going to work. The things that are actually required for the game are just these. The generator field allows you to use the traction motors to propel the locomotive, and the control turns on this console. The MU valve down here determines whether or not you can control the independent brake from this locomotive, and the cutout valve determines whether or not you can control the automatic brake. Banking comms, I'm not 100% sure that it's working in this specific DLC, but this allows you to remotely control a locomotive on the other end of the train. It's supposed to be what distributed power is used for, but it's kind of weird and not necessarily in the game, if that makes sense. So basically what I gotta do is, for this specific job, I have to take these cars, move them over, connect them to a few more cars, and then switch around to the other end and connect them to this train up here. And I don't want to be going too fast when I do that, so I'm going to hit the independent brake real quick. I'm going to get under 5, but as you can see, we're currently going downhill, so we're going to naturally pick up speed a little bit. Now, the other things that I was messing with, I was setting up the headlights and where the lights are controlled. Basically, I set that switch up there, determines which way or which vehicle is controlling, so it sets the headlights. So in theory, these switches right here should activate all the headlights, and as you can see, it did. This is the trailing locomotive currently, and as you can see, the headlights are on even though I did not hit the switch in that cab. Okay, so let's make sure the track's lined up, and it's just going back the way we came, so it is. Alright, apply power, see the amps going up, and we go back. Now, it's important to note that the gauges over here, the brake cylinder, that's the actual air that's being applied to the brakes of the locomotive specifically. The main reservoir is how much air they have to refill the line. The equalizing reservoir is the thing that's directly controlled by the automatic brake. And the brake pipe is the current pressure in the brake pipe running along the entire length of the train. So, as you can see on this particular locomotive, which is a GP38-2, it has 89 psi on both the equalizing reservoir and the brake pipe. So, when I first coupled onto these cars, it had to equalize the pressure along the entire line of the train. So that had to build up. If these cars had been moved recently, they would already have air in them. So it wouldn't take long in theory. But if they had not been moved for a long time, it could take as much as like 15-20 minutes to build up the air pressure. Even though I am attempting to work for the railroad in real life, I do not work for them yet. So I am not yet a conductor or even a conductor trainee. So everything I've learned between this game, watching a couple other videos on some unrelated games, and also playing Derail Valley. So a lot of this stuff I had to learn through kind of like trial and error. Like, it was really frustrating starting out because I couldn't get the train to move. And oddly enough, I actually prefer using this locomotive because it's easier to use. But the other ones are bigger and stronger. And then just yesterday, I found out that, oh wait, you can turn on the windshield wipers to be automated. You don't have to sit there and manually flip the switch every couple of seconds. I had no idea there was a valve to turn those on. So we got 200 yards to go. And then it doesn't help that this DLC is a legacy compatibility version from Train Sim World 2. And even though there are tutorials for the sand patch grade that teach you how to turn this on, and then there are other ones that show you how to make it move, but they don't really show you how to actually play. It's kind of like a weird thing that's hard for me to explain, but they show you how to make it move, but they don't show you how to use it. Like, you don't learn when to use the independent, when to use the automatic, how to use the automatic. Like, we are within 20 yards, so I can apply... I only need an initial reduction, but nevertheless. Alright, so now we've applied the independent brake, we've applied the automatic, but the automatic brake, it can't just be, like, reduced. As you can see, I've reduced the application, but the brake pipe hasn't changed. That's because the automatic brake has to build pressure back up before it can be released. So, you have to apply the independent brake to hold the train in place while you build up pressure to release the automatic. Alright, now we gotta go up here. Alright, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's right, wrong. Okay. Now, we are set to go forward. Switch the reverser, give it some fuel, amps going up, release the independent brake. And we're moving again. And we're going downhill with cars, so it's not going to take long to get up to speed. Throttle, just let gravity take us down real quick. And let's go up to this view, because we can watch when the car gets to that point. Because they seem to have fixed it so that it actually registers as long as part of the train is touching the objective. The very first time I attempted to do this scenario, I kinda messed it up for myself because the objective wouldn't mark as being completed until the locomotive passes that point. So I pushed this train all the way down onto almost the main line, even though this is only like 11 cars. I did the next part of it where you're supposed to go down a bypass track and go to the other side. And then hook onto the other end so you can back it up to the other set of cars. And I went to bypass it and I couldn't because the train was blocking the switch, so I had to restart and try it over. But luckily now it seems to be fixed so that as long as this car is on that point, I won't block the switch and I can go around it. Then you pull forward so that you get lined up with a set of tracks over there to the left. And then you back up to that other set of cars. I think these are empty because it's only... Oh wait, no, they're 13 cars, 900 tons. It's not complete. It's not empty. It's just light. The schedule... Yeah. Uncouple, run around the train, couple to the other end, and start backing up. Let's put that on initial reduction just to slow it down a little bit. Yeah, you kind of have to teach yourself how this game works. And there have been like some frustrating problems that I've had with some of the other DLCs where the tutorial for like using long trains with multiple locomotives from Train Sim 2 or Train Sim World 2. 3 literally fixed everything, and they actually put in that entire tutorial world where they teach you how to actually set these things up. Well, in Train Sim World 2, the tutorial for using multiple trains tells you, okay, go hook up the lead locomotive. It's like, go set up the lead locomotive. Alright, everything's good, right? Wrong. And then you set everything up. Yeah, it's like you set everything up, right? And then it tells you, go back and check the last locomotive. And then it gives you like this quick statement where they're just like, all of the other locomotives are already set up, so you don't have to worry about that. So then you think, alright, I got this set up, so I can go, right? And you release the brakes, and you start trying to speed up, and find out, oh wait, no, I can't. And so I started messing with the settings, trying to figure out, like, okay, what am I doing wrong? And then I was able to make it start moving by turning on the controls for every single locomotive in the consist And it worked. I got it moving, but I was pulling like 60 cars with one locomotive because the other ones all had their controls on, so they weren't helping move the train. They were working against me. So then I finally, not on this DLC, because I haven't done the sand patch grade as much as I probably could, but on the Horseshoe Curve, which is the one I normally play on, I was having trouble with the ES44AC, and I was stuck on this one scenario where I just could not make the train move. Like, I set up the console just like I was supposed to. I turned on the generator field, and then it's like, okay, I've done all of the things. I should be able to move. So I ended up going online and actually reading through the entire GE manual for the real-life ES44AC, and I learned how you set up the real one, and that was when I finally learned that, oh, in order for the other locomotives to work, you have to have the engine set to run, generator field off, and controls off. You also have to have the dynamic brake off for the other locomotives, but on this route with this locomotive, as you can see, that switch is gone. And you do all of that, and you can finally make it move. And then it's completely optional that you can flip the switches for generator field, or not generator field, flip the switches for distributed power, properly set up the headlights, turn on the number lights. All of that you can do on your own. Okay, good. Okay. Alright. Put it forward. And now that I figured that all out, now I can get into pretty much any of them, and I can get it to start moving like it's supposed to. It is important that you go back and double check all of the other locomotives, even when you're using... It's like, even when you're using one of the other ones, you have to make sure that everything is set up properly, because there's a slim chance it's probably not set up properly. Like, you'll run back and they'll all have, like, the controls on. The cutout valve might be messed up, the MU valve might be messed up. So you have to make sure that you run along the entire train, check every single locomotive, and make sure that they are configured to actually work. It's kind of frustrating and kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Luckily, with the with everything that's in 3, that's properly in 3, they actually explain all of that stuff. Like, they tell you to turn on banking comms. It's like they tell you to turn on banking comms whether you need it or not. It's just a good thing to have. They tell you to use the headlights. And then for a brief moment in the multiple locomotives and longer trains, they tell you to make sure the controls are off and the generator field is the controls and generator field are off for succeeding or trailing locomotives. It wasn't until I read the GE manual that I found out that, oh, you have to have the dynamic brake switch off too. Like, at one point, I was trying, like, everything I could to make the specific locomotive I was working on at the time move. And I was messing with every setting I could find. I popped open the circuit breaker, found out there's a fuse for local control. I was turning that off, turn off the controls for the locomotive. It was a mess. So essentially, I was killing every subsequent locomotive, making so that nothing is controlling the engine and it's just dead weight. And I was able to successfully get the train rolling, granted at like full power when you don't need full power. So then I kind of just snapped, decided to read the entire manual to find out how the real one is supposed to work, and that told me, oh, this is how you set it up. And now I know how to set them up. But since I spent so much time messing with the other locomotive, I forgot that the 38 was the one that I liked using the most. And I was trying to do this scenario yesterday, and I sat here for like 15 minutes bouncing back and forth between the two locomotives, trying to figure out, okay, why won't it move? And then after double checking the switches, the breakers, like a million times, I was like, it's the MU valve, isn't it? And then I go back here and find out this was set to trail, and it's like, oh, so basically I just never released the brakes. So I was revving the engine, but it was never going to move. And now for like a couple of feet, this starts going uphill. Alright. 70 yards. Yeah, basically it's just been a lot of trial and error. When I don't think there should be trial and error. Just like I said in my Derail Valley video, I think it is entirely possible to enjoy simulators without actually doing that job. I should not need to be a licensed engineer to play a video game. And if there's a tutorial teaching you how to play the game, I should probably know how to play the game once I complete the tutorial. but, like, nobody tells you, like, hey, it takes a long time to stop a train. So you're a mile away from your final stop. Maybe you should start hitting the brakes now. Nobody does that. Yeah, it's like you're a mile away. Maybe you should be slowing down. Luckily, in the manual for the Cajon Pass in 3, they outright tell you, like, if you're going track speed, by the time you crest a hill, you're already going too fast. Go slow and steady down the hill. It's like, go slow and steady on this route. And it's just like, that's good information! That's the stuff I need to know! And, alright. Alright, wait a second. Like in the passenger lines, for example. They tell you to try and stop within, like, the green zone. So you stop at the end of the station, right? And they tell you you want to brake gradually so that it's not an uncomfortable jolt for the passengers. But they don't tell you, like, when you should start slowing down. Like, about how long is it gonna take me to stop? They don't do that. So, just through trial and error, I would go back and just by doing the missions multiple times, I found out I should start, like, braking, or I should completely kill the throttle by about 2 miles out, so I should stop accelerating and then actually start braking at, like, 1.5 miles, but only, like, initial reduction and then figure in, like, dynamic braking. And then I found out when it wasn't until Train Sim World 3 that you're ever actually taught how to use the dynamic brake. Well, it turns out the dynamic brake works best between 10 and 30 miles an hour. And if you're using it at, say, above 60 miles an hour, the effects are going to be negligible at best. So I started using the dynamic brake more often, but I found out after I'd already put, like, 30 hours into using it wrong, that that's not how you're supposed to use it. So that creates a little bit of a problem. And then only in the next game did they actually tell you when you're supposed to use it. And then once again, reading through the manual for the real locomotive, it's like Yeah, you're only supposed to use it like below, say, 23. And there's just so much in this game that you would not know unless you actually did this all the time. There we go. Alright. Alright, that's lined up. The other problem is this locomotive, or these locomotives are going to start moving. And the last time, I apparently took so long doing this that those two locomotives started moving after I got down here, and I was supposed to just back up down like this track here and come to a stop somewhere over there, but these two started moving, and right when I was past the switch where I needed to back up, they were right there behind me, like almost coupling with me. Like, I need to be where you are. So I ended up going forward, and I was trying to find like an alternate way back to that specific track, and I was gonna have to go through like a long run around through like the service track. It was gonna be a mess, and somehow in the rain, I guess even though I was only going like 10, I don't know if I hit the brake too hard and I hit the brake too hard and then I blew over a switch and derailed, but I failed because you're not allowed to derail the locomotive. Obviously. And it was just funny because I never saved. So I hit load save, and then it just took me back to the beginning, and it's like, okay, that's enough Train Sim World for today. Alright, we are 7/10 of a mile away. Now, maybe this time I'll luck out. And because I didn't have the problem of getting it to move starting out, that maybe I'm a little bit better on time, so that set of locomotives might not start moving yet, but I'm still gonna save after I couple to these cars. At one point, I didn't honestly think that I would like this game series. Like, I remember years back, I was looking at or it was brought to my attention in like a YouTube video where somebody was where they were talking about like absurd DLC available for video games, and they got to Train Sim World, and they were like, yeah, if you want to get every single thing for the game, you're going to spend thousands of real dollars, and it's just like, that's absurd. Why in the world would I ever want to do that? But realistically, nobody in their right mind is buying all of the DLC. You just get the specific areas that you're interested in. Like, when I got Train Sim World 2, I got the US starter, so it had the sand patch grade and the Caltrain passenger line. It also has the British subway and a German bullet train that I can play around with. But I haven't done either of those yet. And the only DLC that I actually bought was the Horseshoe Curve. Because I was offered, or I was given a conditional job offer with Norfolk Southern to work up in Pennsylvania on the Horseshoe Curve. So I absolutely had to get that DLC because it's just like, I had heard that you become a licensed conductor or engineer, and then you have to get qualified to run a specific route. So I figured, I know it's not going to be a perfect replica, but it might be kind of cool to see the real area that I'll be working. So I've been almost religiously playing that DLC and getting a feel for what the area or what the terrain looks like. It's not perfect, but it's something. So you stretch that out, and the ones that interest me are the freight routes. So Norfolk Southern, CSX, BNSF in 3. Those are the routes that I would get. The passenger ones are kinda cool. They're lighter, but they're a lot more strict on the timetable. Or they're a lot more strict. Alright, set the brake. Alright, let's go back to the cab. Alright, out of the seat. Oddly enough, this part right here is my favorite part. Or at least it's the thing that I like the most about why I wanted Train Sim World over Train Simulator. Because I love the fact that you can get out of the cab and start moving. Or I love the fact that you can get out of the cab and start walking around. Because one of the other games that I play is Derail Valley. And you actually have to get out and couple cars. And it's like the coolest thing. Because I've never worked for the railroad, at least not yet. But I have... I worked as a welder in a factory building train cars. So those big gray hybrid gondola cars that you see going up to the coal mine on the horseshoe curve. I've built thousands of them. So I've been around the railroad, but not directly working for it. So I really love the things where you get to work with the cars and just moving things around in the yard. All of that stuff is really cool to me. So it's no surprise that I would apply to be a conductor, who is the person that would sit over there, and they're the ones that actually get out, couple the cars, do low-level maintenance functions, stuff like that. And it was just like, yeah, that's like the coolest thing ever. And then you find out through the interviewing process, they're just like, yeah, if you have enough seniority with the company, you could more than likely go from being a conductor to you're going to go to school to become an engineer. And instead of being the guy that's doing like the heavy lifting outside, you're now the guy who sits up in the cab and starts working the controls. And that kind of got me more interested in this and in Derail Valley. Simply because totally should do that real quick. Yeah, I got interested in those things because it was like, I don't know how to drive a train properly. Well, I'm learning. Sort of. It's kind of like when I was playing the flight simulator when I was younger. I'm not... or it's not likely that I'm going to learn how to fly anytime soon. Don't think I have the vision for it, honestly. But I used to play that all the time. But yeah, I'm learning a little bit more about how these work. Between this, Derail Valley, Railroads Online. I barely knew anything about diesel locomotives starting out. Well, I know even less about steam. So it was really cool watching some videos of some guys playing it, and somehow it ends up being like a college class on how Steam works. And you wouldn't think that would be interesting, but it's really fascinating to me. I really like heavy equipment, heavy machinery. For the love of God, do not start moving. Okay, let's down. Definitely switch it to yards. If you just leave it in feet, you'll be getting like thousands of feet, and it's just absurd. I can deal with 70 yards. And it definitely makes life so much easier when you actually start memorizing the keyboard buttons. Alright, let's bring it to a stop. Okay. Messed that up. Definitely hit the wrong button there. So how do I do it? Okay, let's get completely past the switch. Set the independent. And let's take a look. That is weird. Why does the switch have 3 positions? Let's try this again. Alright, now we're on the right way. Awesome. And like clockwork, they're moving now. Yeah, and this game's a little weird. And we're going uphill, so we're going to naturally slow down a little bit. Somehow all the quote-unquote quick jobs take forever to do. And that's all for today. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.